kings and queens. Many our lives will end. It's like a sad song from a violin. Trapped like Daniels in the lion's den. Trying to pierce the iron skin of the Leviathan. Soul torn in the violent winds. God help us if we die in sin. I hear the trials and the cries of men. That's when the riot.
Yo. Good morning, Good morning, family. And I do consider you family. It's your man, Jay Shoulders. I Manifest Radio. Support District Radio, My Radio Phoenix. How's the family doing this Saturday morning, June 29th, 2019? I'm going to tell you, family, there's a lot going on out there. It's a lot going on. And hope everyone's paying attention. It's very important that we really start focusing on what's going on in this country, what our so-called leaders are doing, what people in the community are doing or not doing to contribute to what's going on here. There's just so much going on right now. I know just here in the city of Phoenix, we're dealing with some issues as far as police violence. Didn't realize that the city of Phoenix police department was like number one in the country for violent confrontations with the African American community. It's no surprise there. Well, it's a bit of a surprise because of the size of our population here, but then again, it's not a surprise because of the size of our population here, if that makes sense. But I got a brother coming through today, who Brother Tremikas, who gave a very powerful oratory towards the end of the community gathering at the, I think it was First Institutional Baptist Church, where they had the community came out to discuss or to air grievances about what's going on with the police force in this city. And of course we had the chief, Jerry Williams, there, and a few other people there. And I didn't go to the event. I did catch it live on the live. And I got to tell you, for anybody who was conscious and was paying attention to that community gathering, the community got a chance to vent, the frustrations, of years of pent up frustration. And it baffles my mind that the white community just seems so, disconnected from that truth, from that understanding. Like, what's going on here? Even the chief had basically put the onus of our security in the community back on us as the community. She said that, the safety in the community, it starts with us first. Before anything can happen, it has to start with the community first. And, of course, that didn't sit too well, because that's placing the responsibility of the policing on the community. And that's not, she should know better. That's not how it goes. The police serve us. We pay them, but they're supposed to serve and protect us. Everybody in the community. Not just a few, but everybody. And the thing about this is, I've been stating over the last month or two how we are once again repeating history. We are repeating history. We are now going through a third Reconstruction. We're going through that period. The original Reconstruction period lasted 10 to 12 years. The second Reconstruction period in the 50s and 60s lasted about the same amount of time, 10 to 12 years. Started about mid-50s, ended late 60s. Well, here we are, 2019. Not only is this what they call the year of the return, and speaking about this year being the 400th year or anniversary of the year the first 20 slaves or so got off on a boat in Jamestown, Virginia in August of 1619. Well, we are almost up on that time frame of 400 years. 400 years. Let that sink in a bit. We came in as servants. Okay, we came in as slaves. We came in as property. We came in as chattel. We came in as equitable, profitable, stable horses, basically. We were walking money, basically, is what we were. Till now, 2019. We are the most highly incarcerated in the country. We are still on the bottom economically. The police force is still killing us with rampant, and this is nationwide, with reckless abandon, and no one really cares. No one really cares. The police unions rush to protect the police anytime there's a shooting, especially in the black community. The police unions are on top of us. So you have the slave patrols. So we're going through this history, and when you look at the genesis of when we got here, we were never meant to be here to actually prosper in a way that, is equal to, we weren't brought here to do that. We were brought here to serve. We were brought here to be the economic engine. We were brought here to be second-class citizens. That's what we were brought here to do. So it's no surprise that the attitudes still prevail. The attitude that black people aren't worth anything, our lives are not worth anything. Well, I mean, they've proven that over and over and over again. Don't let athletes and high profile and high paid employees fool you. We're going through this third Reconstruction period because that's what we're seeing now. Back in those days, you had famous black people who were boxers and who were cowboys and who were entertainers back in, the late 1800s, early 1900s, during the mid 20th century. Okay, that's how we can kind of gain some kind of economic footing, some kind of level of respect. Entertainment. That was the only thing that the dominant society was comfortable with us doing, was making them laugh, making them smile, giving them a good time. You've been doing that since slavery, making us fight each other, bets, racing, all kinds of stuff, man. And we're still doing it today, 2019. We're still going through it right now. And it baffles the mind, but it also should be a wake-up call. It should be a wake-up call. And this wake-up call should resound like a trumpet, man. Okay? We keep hollering no justice, no peace. We keep engaging the dominant society in the hopes that at some point they get it, that they will eventually just leave us alone, and eventually we'll attain full citizenship rights as we should have gotten. Eventually they'll give us another 25 years of the Voting Rights Act. Eventually they'll add more jobs and schools and all this other crap. Eventually. So we're sitting around waiting for that. We're sitting around waiting for somebody to do something for us. And I don't know what kind of man sit around and wait for someone to take care of him. Or a woman. Okay? What we have to understand is we don't have any friends, family. We are in this alone. They have proven that. This week, the Supreme Court just allowed the states now to redistrict all of their districts in the states the way that they want to. Now, mind you, this is a ploy, and this is an attempt for the Republicans to maintain power throughout their districts. Okay, and this has been challenged on the lower courts in these states, in these southern states, and some of these Midwestern states where there's a heavy black population or a heavy immigrant population. So gerrymandering is the term. So now gerrymandering, depending on how it's used, can be beneficial or it can be detrimental. It depends on who's in power. And gerrymandering is the drawing of the district maps according to registered voters. So Democrats have certain districts, Republicans have certain districts, and then the smaller parties are not even counted. But you look at the larger districts, or what the Republicans are doing, excuse me, the Supreme Court, on the lower courts, every time the Republicans came up with a new map, say like in Michigan or North Carolina, Ohio, Missouri, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, okay? These particular states and others are are heavily Republican. Okay? And in order to maintain power, the Republicans in these particular states who maintain the power in these particular states are doing everything they can to continue to maintain the power by gerrymandering. Okay? Challenges were brought, lawsuits were filed in the lower courts, in the lower Supreme Courts of the states. Every last one of those courts kicked those redistricting and those redlining and those maps right back to the states and say no, right back to the people in control and say no, do this again. You can't do that because you're disenfranchising voters. You're making it difficult for minority and poor people to get to the polls, and you're doing it in an attempt to maintain power. Well, duh. There was a Republican in Michigan who straight up told you, I'm doing this so we can maintain power in the Republican Party. Okay? I'm bringing this up for a reason, because I'm neither Republican or Democrat. Why a black person in this country would want to be either, I have no freaking idea. But that's what it is. Okay? So we know at one point we were Republicans. You know, right after slavery, we were Republicans during that time. During the 50s and 60s, we switched over to the Democratic Party. But neither party has done crap for us, but crapped on us. The Democrats lied to us in a smooth way, while the Republicans lied to us right to our face, or tell us they hate us right to our face. So the Supreme Court allowing the states to gerrymander in a way that best suits them, that shuts out everyone else. So now your vote won't count. So now it'll be harder for you to even get to the polls. So now, no matter what you do, the efforts will be stunted, will be challenged, and ultimately your vote won't count. Why? Because consistently, year after year after year, for decades, one party has control and maintaining control. And it's not the party that favors the African American. It's not the party that favors who are really second, third, and fourth class citizens in this country. Because it's even beyond race. It's about class. And those of us who are thinking people understand that. So that's what we're up against, man. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a Supreme Court that upholds ideals that not only disenfranchise so-called minorities and poor people now, but it will do so over the next 30, 40, and 50 years. How? Well, your president has loaded the federal judiciary with young, white, conservative judges. Okay? The same conservative judges that said it's okay to gerrymander people out of existence. Okay? This is what we up against, people. So, it begs the question, do we continue to, I don't want to say beg, but do we continue to engage and try to get people to see our point? Or do we say, you know what? Why don't we kind of pull back a little bit? Let's look at what we have now as a community, and let's start doing things for ourselves. Okay? Let's just stop. There's going to be those that's going to engage in the system and try to change things from the system, all well and good. There are going to be those who are going to attack it from the political side, from the business side, from the education side. All of that is well and good. But until we as a people have an economic base where we have control of resources and the ability to accumulate wealth, we will forever be second-class citizens in this country, period, point blank. The whole idea of slavery, according to Dr. Claude Anderson, was to maldistribute all the wealth and resources into the hands of the dominant society, which makes complete sense. Because if you can keep people working for free, poor, ignorant, you can control them. It's simple. And how do they do that? Swift, blinding violence, lynching, Jim Crow, segregation, the list is long and long, on and on and on. And here's the thing. No matter how loud we scream into the rafters, into the clouds, into the heavens, how often we pray. We got all these churches. We pray and pray. Pray up on some economics, okay? Let's not pray for the white man to get off our backs. He's not going to do that. Not voluntarily. We're going to have to shake him off. We got to shake him off. And the way we do it is we hit him in the pockets, y'all. So the brother Chamikas that was on that had the last ability to speak at the community event at the church a couple weeks ago, kind of gave an impassioned plea and an impassioned cry to shut him down, meaning shut down the city. And what he meant by that is stop giving your money to a society, to people who don't care about you. You know, we pay police. I'm a taxpayer. I know as many people who are African American who are taxpayers. That means we're funding a police department who treats us with such animosity and such animus and such hate, such vitriol. And I can't throw a blanket over all of them like they do us, because that's just not in our natures to do so. But you know what? If you've gained a distrust from the community, it's your own fault. And for the police chief to allude in any other manner is disingenuous at best. So if you notice, it's been mighty quiet over the last week. Okay, there's a so-called investigation going on. Now let me. Here's something that's always confused me. An investigation in the police department, you have internal affairs and things like that, right? Okay. So with that in mind, the people who commit the violation are the ones who investigate themselves. They investigate themselves. Okay? Internal affairs. They do investigate, and then they keep everything private and quiet. They talk about transparency, and then that's all BS. It's BS. Guaranteed, nothing's going to happen to those cops. The family is not going to get that $10 million. Jerry Williams is going to be on the hot seat for so-called not defending her cops. Regardless of what happened, it was an awful tragedy what happened to that family. But the police don't care. All they say is they're doing their jobs. No, then you're not doing your job. Okay? You're operating out of fear. And you've succeeded in instilling fear in the community, and distrust in the community. And if Jerry Williams don't get her act together, she's going to not only feel the fury from the people, as she already has, but then she's also going to get it on the other side from the police union, her own police officers, the same ones that were found on Facebook making all of those comments and all of those disparaging comments and racist comments and all those other things all on Facebook, and all of them got desk duty. No one's getting fired. They might get a slap on the hand. You know, in none of these cases do cops pay a price for what they do, unless you're a black cop. Let me hit you with this. In Minnesota, and now it was a black cop who shot a white lady completely by accident, killed her. The city wasted no time in awarding that family $20 million. The city wasted no time in sending that brother up the river for 12 years. How many black people have been shot down in the street by police? Them families ain't getting no money. For what? You're black. Who cares? No apology. Once they find out that the cops lied, which they usually do, they lie. They say the community lie. They say black people lie. No, the cops lie. They lie as well. Their lies are believed, though, because they're the police. That's why you don't have cops being convicted and sent away for the things they've done. The cop that shot Tamir Rice, 12-year-old kid, in 2 seconds of engagement, killed that little boy. He working in some other police department. Okay, the lady that killed But the list is long, man. I don't even want to go down this list. But if we expecting anything different, we got another thing coming. And I hate to sound pessimistic. I hate to sound down and whatnot, but it's the truth. It's just an observation. What I'm seeing is, if we don't get our act together as black people, if we don't get our act together as a people, we are in trouble. Period, point blank. In the year 2053, it was stated, it was a statistic put out, in the year 2053, the average black medium income will be zero. You have zero wealth. Zero. Nothing. Nothing. No assets. You don't own anything. No stocks, no bonds. Nothing. No life insurance. Nothing. You have zero. Nothing to pass on to our children but a job. Nothing to pass on to our families but a legacy of struggle. When are we going to see that the present system that's in front of us is not to our benefit and we need to do something different? And you know what? As I stated earlier about repeating history, we need to repeat history in a certain sense to where right after slavery, as I stated in other shows, we went ahead and built towns, cities, we built economies, and we had institutions. They got burnt down and destroyed in massacres throughout the country, throughout the first 3 to 4 decades of the 20th century. Okay? You had the massacre in Memphis, you had the Tulsa riot, they call them riots, but they're not riots, they're massacres. Okay? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of black people shot dead in the street. Men, women, and children. It's not a riot. It's a massacre. And that's how they try to get us with these little words and whatnot. Riot. No, it's a massacre. Memphis, Chicago, Detroit, Wilmington, Rosewood, Florida. The list is long. And I say all that to say we can't have a repeat. We cannot repeat that. We cannot have another Tulsa, Oklahoma. When we get our act together and start building our economies in the different states that we reside, and we start accumulating wealth, getting resources, employing our own, educating our own, building businesses for our own, until we start doing that, then we have to be ready for the fallback or for the blowback. And that's happened throughout history. So we have to be on the lookout for that too. The blowback to the civil rights movement was cracking the communities. Mass incarceration. Separating the black families. Everybody's talking about these kids at the border. Nobody's talking about what happened to the black family in the 60s and the 70s. When the black family was broken up, where the man was emasculated and made to leave the home, and the black woman was put in charge of the home. So you go from a 70% marriage rate in the black community down to 30. But they look at us and say that's your fault. No, it's a design, it's a system. We don't want black men, black people to be prosperous. That's what it says. Why is that so hard for people to understand? They don't want us to have anything unless we make them comfortable and we make them happy and feel safe. As long as they feel safe around us, we don't have to worry about being shot by them. We don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about losing our jobs, losing our reputations, having our lives destroyed, or possibly even being shot by the police. If we just fall in line, if we just do what we're asked, do what we're told, not do what we're asked, do what we're told, we'll be fine. No one likes a smart, uppity Negro. There's no place in the world for a smart, uppity Negro. That's what things they tell us. Okay? But we know better. That's why we can't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. We have, as the brother Professor Kaba Kamene says, we have the DNA of the pyramid builders in our blood. So there is no holding us down. There is no keeping us back. There is no destroying us. You can kill us, but there's 42 million of us in this country. It's going to be hard to kill 42 million people. Especially within the next 24 years, the dominant society will no longer be the dominant society. That's why we have all the reactionary things that we have going on now. White people in the street acting silly, getting beat up by black people, chasing black people. So driving while black, selling water while black, sitting next to a pool while black, barbecuing while black, walking down the street while black, volunteering for president for a local campaign while black. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Picking up your paycheck while black, going to the convenience store to buy something while black, taking a phone call in the corner to get some privacy while black. Okay, we get that little petty stuff going on, and then we get the police on us, and then we still have the worst educational system. And don't believe what these people tell you about the unemployment rate, 6% my butt. For African Americans, no, it's more like 12%. And it's even higher for black youth, teenagers. So, what do we do? What do we do? It's simple. We don't all have to agree, because there's many. We're not a monolithic people. We understand that. There's many ideologies and many thoughts and many ways of approaching a problem and many perspectives within the black community. We understand that. It's not respected. It's not given the normal or the real appreciation that it should have, but we have it. It's there. And we don't. The problem is we think we all need to agree when we say we need to unite and do this, that, and the third. We don't all have to agree on everything. The only thing we have to agree on is that the one thought is progress. How do we take ourselves from second-class citizenship in the United States to a position of power and influence in the United States and globally? We have it in the most, how can you say, in the most loose sense when you talk about sports, when you talk about entertainment. We have power and influence in that aspect, but it's very minimal, and it's still controlled, and you're still a high-paid employee. There's a reason why you don't have a whole lot of black people in position speaking out about things going on. Hey, there's something to lose. But that's not new. It's nothing new. It's been going on since we got off the plantations. It's nothing new. So, I don't know, family. We have some things to think about. We have some things to work out. We have some things that we have a lot going on already, man. It's already happening in different areas of the country where we're waking up, we're building businesses, we're starting to build bridges between each other, we're coming together, and it's a force, it's a spirit, it's a movement now that's really gaining momentum, but it's still not the masses, but we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. And it's not only happening here in the United States, it's global. It's absolutely global. It's happening in Africa. I'm doing a lot of study and research on what's going on in Africa with the new trade bloc agreement that the countries in Africa have signed in order to get themselves back on track. Think about it. And they've thought about it. Why is it that all the world comes to Africa for all the natural resources and things like that the continent possesses, takes those resources out of the country, and the country's dirt poor? Africa's not a country, it's a continent. The people on the continent are poor. The most mineral-rich area on the continent, in the center of the continent, is the Congo. Okay? The Republic of the Congo. Okay? Has everything in it. This cell phone I'm holding in my hand has cobalt and other materials that are dug out of the ground in Africa. Why is it that those minerals get shipped off somewhere else, processed, manufactured, and then distributed back to the continent, thereby enriching the offshore people and further keeping the people that are there in poverty? There is no return on investment with that one. So what the continent decided to do, what the leaders from the different countries decided to do, was say enough is enough is enough. The exploitation has to stop. The poverty has to stop. Our brain drain has to stop, meaning the best and the brightest of the continent are leaving. They're coming over here. They're going to Europe, England, getting educated and staying in those particular places instead of going back to the continent to build the continent up. And really, that's where I see things headed. I see a sizable portion of us going back to the continent to do just that, to complete that mission. As a matter of fact, there are calls coming out from the continent for the diaspora to come back home, to come back, to help build the country. They're doing it. They're getting the agreement together. You still have Nigeria and you still have South Africa, two of the largest economies on the continent, waffling. And there's a reason why they're waffling, saying they're being funded, by the United States, by Europe. But just imagine all of these countries on the continent decide that they're only going to trade within themselves. They're going to get rid of those false borders that were put in there by the Europeans in the late 1800s, the Berlin Conference. Do away with all those false borders and get rid of all of this. I'm Nigerian, you're a Cameroonian, you're from this place and that place. That's all. It wasn't like that before the colonizers came through. The colonizers came through and chopped up the continent. The colonizers came through and took a handful of us and brought us over to the so-called New World, scattered from North, Central, South America and the Caribbean. And not only there, but in Australia, the South Pacific, South India. We all over the globe. But there's calls coming from the continent right now that's saying, hey, we are positioning ourselves to become a major player on the world stage. Will you come help us to fulfill this mission? And quite frankly, they're looking at us like we can't do it in its totality without you guys. So, not saying that everyone's going to jump on a boat and go to Africa or hop on a plane and go to the continent to do it, but the call is there. The clarion call is there. Because the events that I'm speaking of here, just in Phoenix, Arizona, are happening in every city in the country and are also happening across the globe. There are black people from Finland, Sweden, Germany, Britain, Russia that are catching just as much hell as those in Brazil, as those on the continent, as those here in America. And that's the truth. So we have some work to do, fam. We have some things to think about. We have some real talking to do. And we have to talk in sincerity and in honesty with each other. We can't look out there for help anymore. It's not coming. We have to look towards each other because that's something that we've always done. That's part of our culture, really, to look at each other for the help that we need to give further. We've always known we've always had. We've been fooled into thinking we've had other people, but if you're really paying attention, no matter what the dominant society says, What does the dominant society do? That's the question. What do they do? What do they do? You wake up 30 years from now, we still won't have any economic power, political power. We're talking about power. We're talking about power. And that's something that, the dominant society does not want us to have, is the power, because they know. They know. We were building cars in the 1920s. Black people were. So they know. We were striking oil and becoming barons and buying airplanes in the early 20th century. But by the late 20th century, how many of us even had that knowledge that we were even doing those things? Think about it. Many of us didn't even know that there were black women who were the mathematical geniuses who helped the white man reach the moon. Hidden Figures. We didn't even know that. There were people coming out the theaters like, I didn't know. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Did you know that? I didn't know that. And this was the 60s. They called the women computers. They computed mathematical equations. They were able to figure out how to take a piece of metal off the earth and through mathematical equations figure out how to get that piece of metal from the earth to this little white object ball in the sky that we look at nighttime. They figured that out. They figured out the trajectory, the speed, the timing, the location of where to land, the velocity, how fast the earth is spinning, and what kind of orbit, what kind of speed that the actual capsule needs to get to in order to hop into that orbit and be able to orbit around the planet and then go from there to the moon and then back. Amazing. But just like the brother Professor Kaba Kamene said, the DNA of the pyramid builders is in our blood, man. When you study Ma'at, which is justice and truth, when you study ancient Kemet and ancient Africa and all of these ancient black societies, you see that women were very vital, the black women. And I've even read where they were the ones who actually created mathematics, the advanced mathematics. But that's a discussion for another day. So, with that, fam, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break. I know I said a lot, said a mouthful, but I just want to give us all something to think about, man. When I come back from a break, hopefully the brother will be here. We can continue on with this conversation and get an update of what's going on in the community in regards to the fallout from the community event at the Pilgrim's Rest Church. It's your man Jay Shoulders, I Manifest Radio, my Radio Phoenix. We'll be right back.